Welcome back. A chilling wave of bomb threats rattled Delhi early morning today as at least 40 schools received alarming emails sparking urgent action across the city. The Delhi Fire Department was alerted at around 7 a.m., triggering a swift response. Schools immediately sent students home while police launched thorough checks at each location. Now, as of now, no suspicious items have been discovered, but the unsettling situation has drawn sharp criticism because this follows a similar scare over a month ago where multiple CRPS schools, including two in Delhi and one in Hyderabad, were targeted with hoax bomb threats. On the 20th of October, a powerful blast rocked a CRPF school in Delhi's Rohini area, damaging nearby vehicles and window panes. Miraculously, though, at that point, nobody had been hurt or injured here. But today's incident, spanning across 40 schools, has sent waves of terror and fear across Delhi at this point. Let me go across to my guests joining me. Firstly, I have Dr. Namita Singhal, Principal of Venkateshwar Global School, Rohini, and Nirmal Kaur also will be joining me in the studio. And I'm also joined by Pradeep Rawat, founder of the All India Parents Association. Here, let me start with you, Dr. Namita Singhal, as a principal of a prominent school in Delhi, which was at the receiving end of this hoax threat. Could you tell our viewers about the sequence of events? What time was this email received by your school? What were the contents that were so unsettling? And then what was the action taken?
So we received an email, at around 10:40 in the morning, and we were given a threat that if we do not vacate the building before 12 noon, there is going to be, a harm to people, the children, the teachers, the staff in the school. So the building has to be immediately vacated before 12 noon. And we were told that some explosive material is planted in different areas of the school and which would go blast after 12 noon. So, the immediate response obviously was to vacate the school building as quickly as possible. And we informed the parents on one hand to come and pick up their children. And the police was, we dialed 100 to inform the police. Their teams also were very quick and alert. They were here in our campus within 10 minutes. And a lot of special cell people, fire brigade, cyber security, people from various departments came, but gave a conclusion.
Okay, so that was the sequence of events, Dr. Namita Singhal, but I can understand the amount of panic and tension that might have created, if nothing else, at least the fear it could have created in all the parents, and not to mention the students and the staff over there at this point. Pradeep Rawat, founder of the All India Parents Association. Pradeep Rawat ji, this must have been terrifying for the parents concerned, and not to mention extremely cumbersome, because as Dr. Singhal was pointing out, if at 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning an urgent SOS is sent out to all parents, not all of them are home at that point. Many of them would have been working parents for them to come and collect the children up. Not to mention dealing with the fear, the rumors, and the panic which normally spreads at this point about what is exactly planted at the school and what is going on could be extremely concerning.
Obviously, if a parent receives a call at any time during, his child or children are in the school, that he's supposed to pick the children immediately and there is a kind of a threat. Although we know under the leadership of PM Modi, India is absolutely safe, and these threats are mostly, kind of hoax calls, maybe made by I don't know who. But the fact of the matter remains, if any of this call, 99.9% are always hoax. But still, we believe that the panic is always there. And whenever somebody calls and tells me that, you have to pick your child from the school, and then, the panic grips over any parent. It would grip over any parent. But the fact remains, these kind of calls are mostly made either by somebody who is not happy with the school or has an issue, or somebody from outside India. So I believe we are safe under the guidance of Home Ministry. Delhi police is doing its best. So that way, I don't think parents are that way panicked, but at least, yes, a doubt or a fear comes whenever a call comes from the school that you are supposed to pick a child immediately because of this kind of a threat. So there should be a kind of what to say, either a mechanism or a system where these kind of calls should be traced, and the people who are doing it or the perpetrators who are doing it are always brought to the book. Then
No, but
only these
Pradeep
things
ji,
will stop.
there's also more substance to the fear, because this was not just one school which was targeted here, as you pointed out. If it's one or two schools, then it can often be put down to a disgruntled person. But this was 40 schools. There was a clear ransom demand of 30,000 US dollars, which was being demanded. And there were also very chilling threats that was sent out as well. And that's where I would like to get in Nirmal Kaur, also former IPS officer with me in the studio at this point. Ma'am, the fact still remains that this was not an ordinary hoax threat. Firstly, we have been receiving an alarming number of hoax threats, whether it be to shopping malls. We have all seen what happened to airlines across the country just a few months ago, but now even schools this year have been receiving hoax threats. But the scale of this, the demand which has been put forward, the tone and tenor of that letter, which we are not putting out on the screens because it can be unsettling and triggering to some of the parents who are watching this, indicates that this is a much more nefarious conspiracy than just some disgruntled individual.
Definitely, 40 schools simultaneously receiving such serious threats. I mean, even if it is hoax, whether it's hoax or not, but for that moment, it is real. It is real and it has to be treated as real and it has to be dealt with accordingly. And the thing is, with this cyber kind of mushrooming of these threats, serious punishments have to be thought of, serious SOPs have to be made, tracing those IP addresses, where they are coming from, picking up people. Now cyber policing is the need of the hour. We are not policing, our conventional policing, of course, is there, very much there. That is a product of centuries of policing. But, this cyber policing has to be done in a big way, and we have to have some mechanism by which maybe the AI operated or whatever. We know the IP addresses immediately, and we are able to trace them. And no matter where they are on the globe, as a parent said that they could be somewhere outside India, wherever they are coming from, they have to be dealt with, and there has to be international cooperation, very very serious intel cooperation on nabbing such kind of people, who are totally disrailing normal life. Like, look at the panic every parent must have felt. It is such an emergency. Yes. It is an emergency situation for everyone, whether they are at work, whether they're in the hospital, whatever they are doing, they have to leave it and run to the school, wherever they are. Yeah. And meanwhile, they are in a very panicked kind of a situation, in a very troubled state of mind. They have to run to the school because they are very worried about their ward. And this kind of thing, tracing of such calls wherever they are located in the globe. I mean, wherever, not that if somebody is sitting in Serbia is sending it, even that has to be traced. And if a ransom is demanded, a lot of ransom calls are there. Sometimes your systems are hijacked, sometimes your whole data is hijacked, that unless you pay this much. And I believe some people pay also, because the police take a while to investigate, and by the time the servers are located somewhere else, and then they layer it. Yeah. They don't, it's not that you can trace to one server. It's layered. By the time you reach the person who's actually the real server, then it is too late. If my data is important, or if my children are so important. So this kind of a thing.
Because again, much like what we saw with the aviation hoaxes, because the target section is such a sensitive group.
Very vulnerable.
Obviously, there can be no chances taken. And Dr. Namita Singhal, that brings me back to you at this point here. I can only imagine, as a son of an educator myself, the problems logistically which your staff and many others across Delhi would be facing here, because you have to ensure that you are dealing with hundreds of school children across various ages. You cannot obviously tell them the truth, because there will be panic, there will be tense at this point. You can't also expect them to behave in a disciplined manner as one can do with adults of the same population. The other question I'm saying is, how does this not interrupt the school curriculum at this point? Because schools across NCR are coming just on the heels of having this entire online, offline, or hybrid mess that we saw during the last few days of November, when there was pollution was at its peak. And now once again the curriculum has been disrupted here. Is there any way out, Dr. Namita Singhal? Because even though you and me may know these threats are obviously a hoax, every time a message like that comes, you have no option but to engage the protocol, which is calling the Delhi police and the Delhi fire service and evacuating the entire school.
Looking for a possible solution in this situation is the only option. And I think the first thing that we need to do is that we have to register in our mind that this is an act of terror, and it has to be taken very seriously. Because somewhere I see that because these episodes have been hoax calls and other things, somehow that seriousness of dealing with the matter, I do not see that intention and seriousness of the matter. So I think our authorities and everybody has to come together to really push, take it seriously, and find a solution. And as far as panic and such, obviously, when it is a school, there are thousands of children in a school. And whenever there is such an episode, there is panic. There is panic, definitely. And the things have to be handled very sensitively, ensuring that there is no panic, that the information remains, restricted, that the people handle it calmly, so that there is always a possibility of a stampede also, if the panic spreads. So we obviously, in
Absolutely.
today's time, there are mechanisms as regular drills and such things. We know that we have to evacuate the building in 2 minutes or 3 minutes. We all are prepared for that. But, this should not be repeated as often as it is happening these days.
Indeed. Nirmal Kaur, let me get you on that point here. Because a very important suggestion has been made by Dr. Singhal that these should be seen as an act of terror, even though they might come across as inaccurate hoaxes. That was the same suggestion which, for days, for more than a week, when we did the debate panel discussions on the airline hoaxes that were happening in September, October, that was the same response coming in. The government of India needs to treat them as acts of terror, because at the end of the day, they are terrifying and terrorizing people, even though the threats might not be realized here. Are we facing a situation where we really need to look at the understand the magnitude of a hoax call and upgrade the magnitude and treat it as such, even though there might be hoax calls, even though nothing might happen? Because at the end of the day, the disruption they're causing and the panic they're creating and the trouble they're causing is no less than that of an actual terror attack.
Definitely. I mean, I don't think it can be called innocuous at all. It is not innocuous. I mean, definitely there's mischief involved, and a big level, high level of mischief involved, and criminal intent involved. So it has to be treated as an act of terror, as an act, which is virtually, if it came true, the effect will be, I mean, the same should be when such a threat is received. And also police, of course, Principal Madam said that police and the cyber police and everyone, the paramedics came, everyone, the emergency teams came, and they acted with alacrity. I mean, of course, good intentions are very good, and, police reaching can have a very calming effect psychologically. But on the technical side,
No,
I
not
think as of
necessarily.
today, the police is
A
lacking.
lot of children or parents might be actually panicky. They see suddenly a
Yes, yes.
school PCR jeep and a fire this thing
But
outside the school. It might not be calming, is it?
seeing a few cops around, that definitely puts a lot of confidence in people.
Okay.
And to that extent, psychologically, yes, but technically, police needs to be really upgraded.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. We'll leave it at that. But thank you so much, Nirmal Kaur, for joining us in the
Thank you.
studio. And also thank you, Dr. Namita Singhal, and also Pradeep Rawat for joining us on this short discussion here.